The moonlight turned the dirt road into a pale ribbon, the silence broken only by my breath as I ran. Each inhale scraped my chest, each exhale burned. Behind me lingered the echoes I couldn't silence, their laughter, sharp as whips, ringing over the sound of boots striking flesh. My mother's flesh. Her cry had split the night once, then faded into a groan so soft it barely belonged to this world. I ran faster, though I did not know if there was anywhere safe to run. I stumbled on a root, caught myself with my hands, and kept moving. My palms stung, grit embedded in torn skin, but there was no time to feel pain. My legs were thin sticks beneath me, shaking but unbroken, driven by a single thought: find him. The one they whispered about. The man in the mountains. The trees swallowed me, tall shadows reaching upward like desperate arms. I could not hear pursuit, though I knew they would come for me if they realized I'd slipped away. Settlers did not forgive what they called insolence. My mother had begged them in broken English to leave her be, to let her work, but they had chosen fists over mercy. I had seen men before who hated us, but never so many gathered together, feeding one another's cruelty until it became a beast with 100 hands. I pressed forward, guided only by memory. Once, years ago, I had seen him at the edge of town, towering over men who muttered but never dared challenge him. They called him the Mountain Man, half legend, half threat. Children frightened one another with stories of him. I had no stories left, only a hope as thin as thread. The climb steepened, stones sliding beneath my feet. My breath turned ragged, the taste of iron heavy on my tongue. A ridge appeared at last, and beyond it the faint glow of a cabin's window. I nearly collapsed at the sight. The door loomed before me, rough-hewn wood scarred by years of weather. I beat my fists against it, frantic, until the sound echoed back from the trees. My voice cracked as I shouted, "Please! You have to help!" The silence stretched. I thought the cabin might be empty, that my desperate journey had led only to another grave. Then a sound, boots striking the floorboards. The door opened a hand's width. A face appeared, rough as the land itself, eyes shadowed beneath a ridge of bone and tangled hair streaked with grey. "What's all this noise?" His voice carried the wear of gravel, not raised yet not soft. "They'll kill her," I gasped, clutching the frame to keep upright. "My mother. They're beating her, because she's Chinese. If you don't come now, she'll die." The man's gaze flickered, sharp but unreadable. His hand remained on the door, unmoving. The cabin behind him smelled of smoke and pine resin, the faint glow of fire outlining his broad shoulders. He studied me the way one might study a wounded animal that had wandered too close. "That ain't my fight, kid," he said finally, voice flat. The words fell like a stone into the pit of my stomach. My knees buckled, but rage steadied me. "Then whose fight is it? They don't care about law. They don't care about right. If no one stops them, she won't last till morning." His eyes narrowed, but he did not move. The silence pressed so heavy I thought it might break my ribs. I saw in him a man long used to turning away, carrying only his own burdens. My fists trembled at my sides, small and useless, but I forced the words out anyway. "You can shut your door and drink yourself to sleep," I said, voice raw, "but when she dies, it'll be your conscience buried with her." The wind shifted, rattling the cabin's shutters. For a moment he stared at me, and I thought I saw something flicker behind his eyes, a memory, perhaps, or a wound deeper than any fist could strike. But he said nothing. Slowly, he began to close the door. I stumbled back into the cold, the night pressing tight around me. From the valley below, a new sound rose, rough voices, swelling with drink and anger. The settlers were gathering, their torches bobbing like a line of fiery insects against the dark. Laughter reached me on the wind, cruel and eager, promising more than bruises this time. I turned back toward the closing door. My chest heaved, the taste of fear bitter as ash. The firelight inside caught on the man's face for the briefest moment, illuminating scars that crisscrossed his cheek. A soldier once, maybe. A killer. A man who had known what it meant to lose. "They'll finish her," I said, the words barely more than breath. "And I'll watch her die." The door hung halfway shut, neither open nor sealed. His hand still rested on it, as though some invisible weight held him there. I stood trembling, every part of me screaming to beg again, but pride bound my tongue. If he would not see reason now, he never would. The torches below swayed closer, the men's laughter louder, carrying promises of violence. My mother's face rose before me, blood-streaked, eyes pleading. I clenched my fists until my nails cut skin, forcing the sting to anchor me. When I lifted my gaze again, It was not with tears but with fire. Then let it be on you, I said. The words hung between us, sharp as a blade. The door neither closed nor opened, the man's face unreadable in shadow. Behind me, the valley filled with the glow of flames and the thunder of boots as the settlers marched. And in that fragile pause, balanced between refusal and choice, the night held its breath. The door did not shut. His hand lingered on the rough wood, the fire inside throwing a jagged light across his jaw. I stood trembling, ready to turn away, when he sighed through his nose like a man burdened with one more weight than he wanted. The door creaked wider. "Inside," he muttered. I stumbled across the threshold, nearly collapsing on the boards. Heat from the hearth wrapped around me, sudden and overwhelming. The cabin smelled of smoke, leather, and a faint sourness of old whiskey. He closed the door with a final thud that seemed to seal us off from the night. I tried to speak, but my throat closed around the words. My chest still heaved from the run, from fear. He studied me without expression, eyes dark beneath a tangle of hair. Then, with a grunt, he reached for a tin cup, filled it with water, and thrust it into my hands. The water was warm, metallic, but it soothed the fire in my throat. I drank until I choked, and he pulled the cup away. "Talk," he said. I told him. Not everything, there wasn't time for everything, but enough. How they had circled her outside the livery, voices sharpened by whiskey and hate. How the first strike had knocked her to her knees. How they had kicked and jeered while others watched from doorways, pretending not to see. My words tumbled, tripping over themselves in their haste. His expression did not change. He listened the way a stone listens to the rain, unmoved but marked all the same. When I faltered, he asked only one question. "Where is she now?" "In the old feed shed," I whispered. "They dragged her there. They said they'd finish her by morning." He sat back, hand rubbing across his jaw. Firelight caught on scars hidden beneath his beard, silver lines twisting like rivers over old maps. His silence pressed on me, heavy and suffocating. "You're a big man," I said, my voice shaking. "Strong. They'd fear you." "They'd kill me same as her," he answered. "But you know how to fight. Everyone says you do." That drew a faint, humorless sound from him. Not quite a laugh, more like the memory of one. "I knew how. Long time ago." The flames cracked in the hearth, sparks leaping, settling. He reached for a flask, hesitated, then set it aside. His hand lingered there as though it weighed more than steel. I watched him and saw what the town whispers never told, the exhaustion etched in every line of him, the way his eyes avoided the fire like a man afraid of what he'd see in the light. "You think the world owes you because you hurt?" I asked, the words spilling without thought. "She's hurt worse, and she still tries. She still sings to me, even when she's bleeding." His eyes snapped to me then, sharp, and I almost wished I'd bitten my tongue. But I didn't back down. Something softened in his face, not kindness but recognition. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "How old are you?" 12. His head dipped, and for a long while he said nothing. When he spoke again, his voice had thinned, as if dragged from some pit he'd sworn never to enter. "I had a daughter once. She'd be about your age now, if she'd lived." The room seemed to shrink around his words. His hand curled tight, knuckles whitening, until he forced it flat against his thigh. I dared not ask what had happened. The answer was written in the hollows of his eyes. "Sleep by the fire," he said at last. "I'll think." I didn't argue. My body, brittle from fear and exhaustion, crumpled onto the bearskin rug. Sleep came not as rest but as a blur of broken images. My mother's face blooded, men's boots rising and falling, the cabin door closing forever. When I woke, pale light pressed against the shutters. My heart lurched, remembering. I pushed myself upright, searching. He was already dressed, rifle slung across his back, steel bag packed. His hair was tied back, and the air around him carried a different weight. "You're coming?" I asked, my voice small, hopeful. He adjusted the strap without looking at me. "Don't make me regret it." Relief so fierce it hurt swept through me. I scrambled to my feet, though my legs shook beneath me. He studied me for a moment, then tossed a strip of dried meat into my hands. "Eat. You'll need strength." We left the cabin together, the door closing behind us like a chapter sealed. The morning air was sharp, filled with the scent of pine and damp earth. In the distance, faint voices carried from the valley, drunken and cruel. He stopped at the ridge, surveying the land below. "They're many," he said. And they're mean. But mean don't make a man invincible. The way he said it sent a chill through me, as if he spoke from memory rather than hope. I followed him down the slope, my heart hammering. Each step carried us closer to the feed shed, closer to my mother. The town's outskirts came into view, the buildings crouched like guilty witnesses to the night before. He motioned me into the brush, lowering his voice. Stay hidden. You see trouble, you run. Don't stop for me. I wanted to argue, to swear I'd stay, but the steel in his eyes silenced me. I sank into the shadows, watching. He walked out alone, his frame cutting sharp against the morning sun. Settlers lounged near the shed, guns loose in their hands, laughter curdling the air. They turned at the sight of him, surprise flickering into wariness. Well, look who crawled down from the hills, one of them sneered. Thought you were dead up there. Reckon I'll be dead soon enough, he replied, voice flat. But not before I take a few of you with me. The words hung heavy, daring, electric. Silence followed, then the scrape of boots against dirt as the settlers rose. Hands drifted to holsters. My breath caught, the world narrowing to that moment. He shifted his stance, weight balanced, eyes hard. And for the first time since the night began, hope sparked inside me, not safe, not certain, but burning all the same. The standoff cracked the morning air like a whip. The settlers squared their shoulders, mouths twisted with scorn, but none stepped forward first. They knew him, maybe not his story, but his legend. The mountain man stood motionless, a bulk of quiet threat. His voice carried low and even. Bring the woman out. The men exchanged glances. One spat in the dirt, his lip curling. She ain't worth the breath she wastes. Why don't you turn around, old man, and crawl back to your hole? The mountain man didn't blink. Bring her, or I'll drag each of you down and find her myself. The tension snapped. A pistol lifted, hammer cocked, and then the air split with thunder. His rifle barked once. The gunman crumpled, dust billowing around him. Shouts erupted, boots scraping, the sharp clatter of revolvers dragged free. The mountain man didn't wait. He moved with a speed that mocked his size, firing, ducking, rolling behind a trough as bullets punched splinters from the boards. I pressed my face into the brush, heart battering against my ribs. The noise was deafening, a storm of gunfire and curses. Smoke stung my eyes, the acrid tang of powder filling the air. Every second stretched, every heartbeat a knife's edge. Through the chaos, he cut a path. His rifle cracked, then his revolver flared. Men dropped or scattered, their bravado leaking away with their blood. But there were too many. They surged around him, forcing him back step by step. A scream clawed its way from the shed. My mother. Her voice, weak but unmistakable, lashed me like a whip. Without thinking, I tore from the brush, sprinting low, heart in my throat. He saw me. His eyes, wild with fight, fixed on mine. He snarled a word I barely caught, down, and fired past my shoulder. A settler behind me shrieked, fell clutching his arm. I dove into the dust, scrambled toward the shed, every muscle screaming. The door was barred with a plank. My fingers scrabbled at it, too small, too weak. Inside, her voice broke, calling my name. Panic burned, but then a shadow fell. The mountain man wrenched the board free with one hand, shoved the door wide. She lay inside, bruised and blooded, her breath shallow. Her eyes opened, glassy, then widened when she saw me. I collapsed beside her, clutching her hand. The mountain man crouched, eyes darting, calculating. Gunfire raged outside, shouts closing in. We can't stay, he said. I knew he was right. They would regroup, come again, and next time they'd burn the whole town to smoke us out. He scooped her into his arms as if she weighed nothing, jerked his head for me to follow. We slipped out the back, into alleys choked with shadows. Every step was risk, every sound a warning. Shouts echoed, boots pounded, but the mountain man moved swift and silent, a predator through the ruins. He carried her without falter, though sweat streaked his face, jaw set like stone. At the town's edge, horses waited, skittish with fear. He shoved my mother into my arms long enough to mount, then lifted her up before him. He pulled me onto the second horse with a rough hand. Hold tight. We thundered into the wilderness, hooves striking sparks from stone. Behind us rose the howl of pursuit. Torches flared, guns cracked, voices cursed our flight. The chase had begun. The forest swallowed us in green shadow, but not enough. Shots whined past, snapping branches, thudding into trunks. He twisted in the saddle, firing back, his face grim. "Keep low," he barked. The horses labored up the slope, breath soaring, foam flecking their mouths. The trail narrowed, rocks treacherous. My arms ached from clinging, but I dared not loosen my grip. One stumble would send us crashing into the gorge below. The settlers pressed close. I heard their laughter, cruel with confidence. "No hill keeps us from you, hermit," one roared. Another shot split the air, close enough I felt its heat pass my ear. The mountain man wheeled his horse hard, firing. One rider toppled, his scream cutting short as he rolled into darkness. Another veered, but two more surged forward. Their torches painted the trees in leaping orange, the smoke of burning brands mingling with the stench of sweat and powder. Branches whipped my face, tore at my arms, but I clung tighter. My mother groaned in his arms, a sound that pierced me more than the bullets. She was slipping, fading. I pressed my forehead to her back, whispering promises I couldn't keep. The trail split. He chose the steeper path, trusting the mountain to fight for us. Rocks slid under hooves, men cursed behind us. One horse screamed, tumbling, dragging its rider with it. The others pushed on, relentless. The climb ended in a clearing, moonlight silvering the pines. He hauled his horse to a stop, chest heaving. "No further," he muttered. He swung down, lowered my mother gently to the ground. Then he drew his rifle and faced the dark. The settlers burst into the clearing, eyes burning with fury. They fanned out, torches throwing shadows like claws. Their leader stepped forward, face twisted in triumph. "You can't hide forever, mountain rat. Hand her over. We'll make it quick." The mountain man leveled his rifle, voice a growl. "You've already had your chance at quick." The world held its breath. Then fire exploded. Bullets chewed the earth, tore leaves, sparked against stone. He stood unyielding, firing with ruthless precision. One torch fell, another rider spun, blood spraying. Yet still they pressed, teeth bared, driven not by courage but by hate's poison. I crouched over my mother, shielding her with my body, whispering words I barely believed. Her hand clutched mine, weak but stubborn. The mountain man fought like a cornered wolf, teeth bared, fury unchained. But there were too many. A shot ripped his shoulder, spinning him. He staggered, dropped to one knee. The settlers howled, sensing blood. Something inside me broke. I snatched a fallen pistol, hand shaking, vision blurred. I aimed where the torchlight showed a sneering face and fired. The recoil jolted through me. The man fell. The mountain man's eyes flicked to me, surprise raw and sharp. For a heartbeat he seemed to see someone else in my face, someone he'd lost. Then he pushed to his feet, teeth clenched, and roared into the night. The settlers faltered at that roar, but only for a moment. Their torches closed in, a circle of fire tightening around us. The mountain man lifted his rifle, blood streaking his arm, chest rising ragged. His gaze swept the enemy, then settled on me. "Stay behind me," he said. The words carried no promise of victory, only of defiance. He squared his shoulders against the flames, against the hate, and braced for the final charge. The night shuddered, the mountain waiting to decide who it would claim. The clearing seethed with firelight, torches circling like hungry eyes. The settlers shouted, voices thick with triumph, certain the fight was theirs. The mountain man stood at the center, blood seeping down his arm, rifle heavy in his hands. He did not retreat. His stance carried a defiance older than the mountains, as though the earth itself braced through him. The leader stepped forward, torch held high, his grin a slash of cruelty. "1 man against 10. Lay down your gun, and maybe we'll let you crawl back to your cave." The mountain man spat into the dirt. "I don't crawl." The moment shattered. Gunfire erupted, a storm of light and noise. He dropped to one knee, returning fire with ruthless precision. One settler spun, torch falling and hissing out in the grass. Another clutched his chest, stumbling backward. But the circle tightened, shot sparking off stone, heat pressing in from all sides. I huddled over my mother, her body frail beneath my arms. Each crack of a rifle jolted through me, each scream tore deeper. Her breath came shallow, whispering through her lips like broken glass. "Stay safe," she murmured, but I shook my head violently, refusing to hear surrender. The mountain man fought as though he were 10 men. His revolver barked until it clicked empty, then he swung the rifle like a club, crushing skulls, breaking ribs. His body was a wall, a storm, a fury. Yet even walls fall when battered long enough. A shot grazed his thigh, another tore his side. He staggered, blood dark against his shirt. The leader advanced, pistol raised. End of the line, hermit. But the mountain man lunged before the words finished, tackling him into the dirt. They rolled, torches scattering, fists striking like hammers. The leader snarled, slammed his gun against the mountain man's jaw. He staggered but roared back, headbutting him until blood sprayed. At last the settler collapsed, groaning, his pistol lost to the grass. The others faltered, uncertain. For a breath, silence hung, broken only by crackling flames. Then one lifted his torch high, shrieking, "Burn them out!" He flung it toward us. The torch landed in the dry grass, fire leaping, smoke coiling upward. Flames raced fast, feeding hungrily on pine needles and brittle brush. The clearing filled with choking heat. The mountain man staggered upright, chest heaving. He scooped my mother into his arms once more, his eyes finding mine through the smoke. "Run!" I shook my head, but his gaze cut through my fear like steel. "Now!" We ran. Branches tore at my face, fire snapping at our heels. Behind us came the settlers' curses, their pursuit frantic through the smoke. Bullets hissed, but the flames grew wild, forcing them back, scattering their line. The mountain had chosen its side. The path narrowed into a canyon, walls steep and jagged. The horses waited where he had left them, stamping nervously. He thrust my mother into my arms long enough to mount, then hauled her up before him. With a grunt he pulled me onto the second horse. "Ride hard. Don't stop till the river." We spurred the animals into the canyon, hooves clattering like thunder. Smoke billowed above, flames painting the sky orange. I clung tight, the wind tearing tears from my eyes. The roar of the fire behind us grew distant, but the pounding of pursuit lingered. From the corner of my eye I saw him sway in the saddle, his back hunched, blood soaking his shirt. Yet he stayed upright, jaw clenched, eyes fixed ahead. He would not yield, not yet. At last the river shimmered before us, wide and silver beneath the moon. We plunged through, water freezing, spray biting our faces. On the far bank, he slid from his horse, dropping to his knees with my mother still in his arms. I scrambled down, nearly falling. He laid her gently on the grass, brushing hair from her face. She stirred, eyes half-lidded, lips parting to whisper his name, not his name, but the word she used for protector. Her hand trembled against his cheek. He bowed his head, shoulders shaking once, then steadied himself. His gaze lifted to me, hard but not unkind. "She'll live. She's tougher than you think. And you." My voice cracked. He looked down at the blood staining his hands, then back at me. "I've had worse." But the way he sank onto the grass, the pallor of his skin, told me otherwise. The night quieted around us. The river rushed steady, a song of survival. Across the water, faint shouts carried, but none dared follow through the flames. The settlers were beaten, if not by us then by the mountain itself. I pressed against my mother's side, listening to her shallow but steady breath. Relief washed through me, fragile as glass. The mountain man leaned back against a stone, eyes half closed, rifle resting across his knees. For a long time none of us spoke. Finally, he broke the silence. "Thought I'd finished with people long ago. Thought it was easier that way." His voice rasped, worn thin. He looked at me, then at her. "Guess I was waiting for the right ones." The word settled deep, heavier than the gunfire, deeper than the wounds. He had not saved us because of duty, nor anger, nor pride. He had saved us because somewhere inside, beneath all the scars, he had not stopped being human. The firelight from the canyon dimmed to embers. Dawn crept pale and cool over the trees. My mother stirred again, whispering my name. I held her hand tight, tears spilling, and for the first time since that night began, hope rooted itself in me. When I looked back at him, his eyes were closed, but his chest still rose and fell. Alive. Scarred, blooded, but alive. We would leave this place. Find somewhere the hate of men could not reach so easily. And he would come with us, not as a ghost in the mountains, but as flesh and blood, as family. The river sang on, carrying the night away. And I knew our story was only beginning.